I am Victor Vister Reeser.
And I'm Jonathan Vergara.
And this is Indies Nuts, the podcast where we play and review newly released indie games so you don't have to, unless they're good. That is... You know what? I'm glad you were watching this one right now or listening to it at home whenever we get these out, because today is one of those rare cases where I think maybe you might not want to play it. We are reviewing the game Wonhon, Vengeful Spirit. Okay, it is a paranormal stealth action tactics game developed by Busan Sanai Games, a Canadian one-person studio. Very cool. We played it. I played through basically the entirety of the game. I skipped the last two missions. I skipped two missions to get to the last section of the game because you can do that, and I'll explain why. And Jonna played through a decent amount of you played the demo.
I played the two demos. So there are two demos on Steam for this one. Wonhon Prologue and Wonhon The Beginning. And Prologue was just a one-shot mission. I believe just one thing. And then The Beginning gave you a little taste of several different missions. The reason why I didn't play through the whole game is because I just started a program on game design. And it's been crazy busy, and I also was back in the States for a little while. So Victor did most of the heavy lifting on this one. So a lot of this is going to be his perspective, but I'll jump in with my impressions of the demos and what little bit I did experience. I think both of us kind of walked away with a negative experience for this one, which is disappointing because we went in with pretty high hopes for this one. It looked like it was going to be cool.
And paid $17 or $15. Or
I did not, fortunately. I use that on my Canadian hamburgers, so I'm good to go.
All right. Well, I've had enough Canadian hamburgers. Let's get right to it. I think the first thing I want to talk about is the aesthetic overall. And one of the things that pops up in the beginning, we've talked about before, is the text. It's something I have a lot to say about with games. If you are going to be a text-heavy game like this one, with literally no voiceover whatsoever, have good quality text. It looks like it's from a PS1 game. The text that pops up is not good. It's just very generic, and oftentimes grammatically, there are flaws.
Yeah.
And perhaps the person that made this game, the developer or people who did any additional work on the text work is English perhaps not their first language. That might be the case. That is the vibe I got.
It seems like something that would be easy to fix, though, because you could have people read through it. You could have people test play it, especially if you're planning on releasing it in an English-speaking market. That's really not acceptable, especially this game's not particularly long. So
it's not.
You could have had someone go through and do that. I will say that I didn't really have an issue with the text. Maybe if I go back and play it now that you've mentioned it, I'll notice it a bit more. I don't really have an eye for text aesthetics. But the thing that did bother me was the tone of the dialogue. I'm not sure if this was consistent in the main game, because again, I only played those demo versions. But the tone of the dialogue did not match the tone of the aesthetics. You're playing this World War II era, prison camp ghost story, and they're talking like they're 90s teenagers at times.
Even the death god that has come.
That's specifically the one I was thinking of.
Complaining about, oh man, so many people are dying. Man, what a rough day. Yeah, dude, exactly.
It just did not fit at all.
I'm so busy. And that's the plot. That's the plot, by the way. It opens up, and then the protagonist, she has recently died. She was murdered by some enemy troops of some kind. And she's like, well, I know I was just brutally murdered, and I'm walking around, and I'm probably covered in blood and God knows what else. Hey, can I help you, Death God person?
Need some help?
And he's like, you know what he says? He says, this job is so incredibly... Yes. Go. What are you going to do? Yeah, you see these ghosts? They know what's up. Just go around the ghosts. And then half the ghosts are like, I need you to murder everyone in this camp. And she's like, yeah, I'm cool with it. I get her being cool with it.
She adjusted
How is this
very
God
well.
of Death cool with it?
Yes. I actually kind of wish they had leaned into it and had made Death God, just a 90s guy. Just like Zach Morris level 90s dude.
Whoa! I didn't,
like,
when I said that you could do their bidding, I didn't mean kill everybody. What?
She's like, oh, can I help you? He's like, whoa, time out. Here's the thing, guys.
Yeah. Come on, dudes. If we sit down and talk about this together, I'm sure we'll all be best buds when we're done. Yeah. No, it was awkward, right?
Yes, they needed to pick a lane. Either it's a lighthearted romp or it's a serious war-torn story, but you can't have both. Yeah.
And I have to say, I think what threw me off the most, and you too, is that none of the promo material, none of the information on the Steam page, none of the trailers, of which there are 2 or 3 that we watched, prepare you for anything lighthearted whatsoever.
No, not at all.
It's extremely dark. It
comes across as very serious, and that's what I was expecting. Something more in the vein of like Valiant Hearts, if you've ever played that game, the World War I game where you're kind of playing through people's stories, going through the war and like seeing, the horrors of war. That's what it seemed like, that you were going to be playing this girl and kind of going through these horrific events that she had to live through and was getting revenge for. And again, I just played the demo, but it sounds like it from the main game as well. That was not the impression I walked away with from the little bit that I played.
The gameplay itself, sure, it's dark. I love the rainy aesthetic. You can zoom out really far, which is cool. A lot of the map design, it looks great at first until you run into it a bunch. I have this note here. The aesthetics were okay for part of it, all right? So, but I want to go back. I still want to talk about, the writing of it real quick. You run into some characters. The characters, the titular character, Wonhon, this vengeful spirit that you are. First off, she starts off kind of bogged down. It feels slow and clunky, and her whole thing is vengeance. And then it turns out there's a part where she could reunite. Spoilers. She could reunite with her family and live forever in happiness. Okay, and she reaches a point where that could happen near the end of the game, and she gets that option. She goes and she says, this isn't right. This doesn't feel right. Okay, cool. But she got to reach that ability by helping these other people get used, avenge these other spirits that were, viciously cut down in their youth by some sort of event that is, parallel to World War II Japanese occupation of Korea. Let's, full disclosure. That's what this is.
It's what it's obviously supposed to be.
It is. The name Wonhon means a vengeful spirit. So that is a type of like poltergeist or specter, of Korean lore. So that being the case, where was the dialogue talking about what happens with these other people? Where is any sort of story building into that? There's nothing.
It feels like a missed opportunity too. Again, going back to Valiant Hearts. Valiant Hearts was a game that balanced this very well. It balanced puzzle gameplay with actually addressing what happened in World War I. And it didn't pull punches. It talked about, the horrors of that war. They showed characters being killed by mustard gas. They showed the horrific events of that war. Games should not shy away from that stuff. Like, if you're going to embrace that aesthetic, if you're going to go with that story, go with that story. This is not a game for children to begin with. Why are you tiptoeing around it like it is?
I didn't get what the rationale is behind it. I really feel like, again, like you said, it's like a half-hearted attempt at something. It could be great, and it doesn't quite succeed. It just doesn't. It fails. It just straight fails. Because once you get into the game, it's just full of weaknesses. Now, story-wise, whatever, you get to the end, whatever. Let's talk about, again, there's really not much else to talk about because there's not a lot of development. Many of the missions are very boring and repetitive. So let's talk about the actual gameplay. Dudes, I say this, dudes, the enemies walk.
Are you a death god? A Korean death god?
Yeah. The enemies walk. Yeah, yo, dude. Like they rode a horse. All the enemies walk. They kind of strut a little bit. Like they just they moseyed on into town. Or that they're Conor McGregor doing his like arm swinging thing in the ring. That's what all of the enemies look like. They all look like it.
Yeah, the only
difference between enemy units too is, are they green? Are they yellow? That's it.
It's
Are they these
the laziest
Myco
form of character design is doing
Yeah.
alternate colors. And I get it, like, especially with a one-man team, like, you got to cut corners somewhere if you're going to get a game out. And as far as I know, this is this guy's first game, so, like, you know.
But in the military, you wouldn't have the same. Nobody would be. It's like, oh, you're yellow. You're bright yellow
Yes.
in the rain. It doesn't make any damn sense.
That is the stealthiest of colors. Like,
it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's just a nonsensical decision. You know, if it was like you're green, but you have a bolero of bullets. Okay, this guy, he's not carrying a gun, so he's a grenadier. He's got a different helmet. He actually does have a different helmet. Cool, roll with that. And it should be hard to discern the enemies. Add some challenge.
Yeah.
It's not. It's too easy, and it's boring because of it. The Ghost Girl, another note. Oh, also, when you can possess people. In my game, where in the full version of the game that I bought, when you do that, these vector lines pop up that don't necessarily relate. These dashed white lines, that it's kind of like you're going to possess someone, and the lines are just throwing you off. What are they looking at? Are they showing us the view of the enemy? I tested that. No, it's not related to anything. It's just these random programming lines. Bad coding.
See, I did not have that problem, which is, I don't know if that's better or worse than, like, you paid for the game and you had the problem, and I played the demo and didn't. I don't know if it's a thing with, you know, the equipment that we're using, like if it's an issue with the final version of the game. At any rate, again, I did not have that issue in the demo. It looked fine. Again, the art style, it was serviceable. The animations were a little bit weird. But
I mean, for a minute or two, but I played it for hours, and I have to say, man, the enemies later, they do get more difficult. They add this sort of rat king kind of creature. It's a massive rat that can sense spiritual energy. Pretty cool. The only way to stop it is to feed it these other enemies, because all of the soldiers get replaced by these headless creatures with 3 tendrils instead of a head, and they just resurrect after a while every time.
Famously happened in the war against Japan. So.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, I get this weird kind of SS vibe of the general, who turns out to be not the penultimate but almost final boss of this game. Okay, and they have these, you know, spiritual way to kind of capture you later using Myco and they call them shrine maidens or something, but essentially they're the Japanese priestesses, right? The only thing you can do for all of the enemies in this game, by the way, is to just run around.
Yes.
Okay, you're just slowly moving around. You're dodging because you see with the line of sight of all enemies, and when it kind of builds up to their alert meter, it is the line of sight, which looks really cool, actually. I like that, how it's on the ground like that, and it fades back. Nice. Running around.
That's it.
That's how you beat it.
Like I said, I played several different missions in the demo, and all of them equated to find the person, like, sneak into the base, run away from bad guys. You can possess them and make them shoot each other, but that's guaranteed. Everything's going to go haywire if you do that. And then find a person and escort quest them out by, again, running away from stuff. And I was like, this isn't particularly fun. And it was like relatively easy for you to get caught. Again, if you did anything offensive, you would get caught. And then you'd have to redo the whole slow thing over again. And I was like, this is not particularly engaging in the demo, which is where you should be putting your best foot forward, because you're trying to make me buy this game, right? But if I had played this demo outside of the context of making this podcast, I would not have bought the game.
I wish you would have told me that before I bought the game.
You bought it first, to be fair. Actually,
it looks
a
really
little
cool.
peek behind the curtain.
We both thought this
I
looked
was
really
about to
cool.
buy the game, and Victor told me not to, and was like, "Dude, don't waste your money. Just play the demos, and we'll make the video."
I 100% said that because it is not worth it, dude. It's not worth it. So, you know, we don't have a lot of time, so let me just get into it. A couple of the things that were also kind of not good translation wise. One of the at one point, a ghost girl calls her grandma Nana, like Nana or something. There's nothing Korean or East Asian about that word used for grandmother.
Yeah.
So it's not culturally relevant. You could have just said harmi or harmony if you're using Korean, which is the obvious setting of this game, or just said grandma or grandmother. They're okay. Why would you add like Nana, like a different kind of nickname? I don't know. Also, at one point you have to gather vegetables for this soup, and it says go grab some lettuce. Yo, dude, there's no lettuce soup. All right.
Also, like we know, like I get when they change in games like the name of foods. She's like, well, maybe people don't know what that food is called in English. We know what cabbage is. Like we have cabbage in English-speaking countries.
Wait.
Cabbage? No,
is that when there's like a lot of cabs?
Yes.
You got like, there's a lot of cabbage on the road.
That's a dumb joke.
Suggested.
He is dad. It's fine. It's justified.
Fair enough. Thank you. So there was absolutely no story development. There are some audio issues, like a timer carrying over from the end of a timed mission into the next scene for no reason whatsoever. I had to quit out of the game for the timer to stop. Otherwise, the sound just kept clicking over, even though I was talking to try to get to the next mission.
Yeah, you mentioned buggy. You mentioned as well that at some points in the game there are game mechanics like the lightning that you had mentioned to me before that just kill you randomly, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I don't feel like that was random. I feel like it was added for scaling difficulty in lieu of adding something more challenging. Like you possess people and you move around, and the lightning just instantly ends the possession within a few seconds. There was no strategy to avoid it though. No counterplay of the lightning, which makes it just bad game design. Which I have to say, I'm going to give this a big fat 0 lettuces out of 5. All right, this game is not worth buying, guys. It's just don't do it. Just not worth it. Yeah, it's not a full game.
Sadly, it was not great. And no knocks against the developer. One-man team, early game. Hopefully you learn some lessons from it and you go on to make other great things. And I hope that's the case. This one just wasn't for me. I didn't enjoy what I played. It felt a little bit too slow, a little bit too clunky. Maybe need a little bit more time in the oven or a little bit more play testing before they had put it out. Maybe having people go over that script a couple more times. And I think it would have been better for it.
You know what? All right. And that's the call to go. Thank you guys so much. We're going to hit you up with something else great.
Yeah, not sure what the next game is yet. We'll try to get the next one out way sooner than this one. Thank you guys so much for being patient. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry that this one's not a great game.
No apologies. No apologies. Just don't play it. We're good. Just don't play it. All right.
All right, guys.
We're sorry if you played it.
Yes.
That's what we're sorry for. Okay?
That's true. We are sorry if you played it. If you paid good money for it. All right, guys.
We will see you guys.
See you next time. Peace.
Bye.